Okay, okay.
Okay. Morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. Um, and today I'm going to talk about the selling lessons and mistakes, what I've learned in the real estate business. So, the question I'd like to put forward is how many of us is basically in the business just to generate the income, but not following the buyer or the seller or creating a passive income by working with that particular buyer or seller. And one of the big things is what I've learned in the industry is that at the end of the day, we are trying to look after your pocket, but we're not looking after the buyer or the seller. And one of there's several common mistakes which I've made in the industry, and we all start off as I call it an apprentice. And nobody teaches us in the brick and mortar company how to deal with buyers and sellers. All they tell you is get on the phone. There's a database. There's a road. Use a CMA, use Lightstone, and find the people and phone them. And the key to this is people like to have a conversation with each other and not to just say, okay, hey, Yuan, is your property on the market? Would you like to list it with me? I've got a lot of cash buyers. And at the end of the day, people lose that faith in the agent because only 2% of agents makes it in this business. And what I'm talking about 2% is people that create a living, not to just to pay their debt. 66% of all agents might sell one property a year. And this is what gives agents a bad name. If you look at the 80-20 principle, 20% of agents might sell six properties, but the rest is battling in the marketplace because they weren't told how to work with buyers and sellers. Um, so a lot of us will might get into the business of looking at high value properties. So, all of a sudden you come in as an apprentice or new into the business, but nobody gave you the idea of how to sell, and you're trying to sell a 20 million rand property. But all of a sudden, this guy might be a CEO of a big company, he might be a chartered accountant, and he asks you, what is a KPI? Oh shit, what does this mean? That mean, um, how would I know this? And all of a sudden people starting to ask questions which I'm not 100% sure of, and that agent just loses a deal because he was not told. So at the end of the day, you need to understand what your client is and why they're selling it. And if you got the market for that particular buyer, figure out and do some homework regarding that 20 million rand property. It's like I spoke to an agent today. She listed a very nice property for 11 million. I know where the market which market I will attract because it's close, it's on the beach. It's 11 million. It's only, what's it, 500,000 pounds or $500,000. And what can you get in the UK? What can you get in America for $500,000 for a six-bedroom house with sea views? So, and another 11% return where the UK might give you a 6% return. So sometimes we have to leverage skill set and understanding what people want. Because most of the agents is they're quick for a short-term gain. I mean, I've come across with a lot of agents, and I've just picked it up with a person I know. All he's interested in is getting as many agents as possible. He runs his own business, and some of them might not be registered. As long as they sit on the wall, the ones that falls off, who cares? He's still making money, but it's harming the industry. So all he's interested in is short-term gain and to get his toys have a lifestyle, but not worry about the buyers and sellers. This game has got to do with building relationship because the key to this is if you're going to lose the trust of that seller or the buyer, it's not just you or the agent that comes short, it's the company who gets a bad name. You know, and I'll put it like the insurance business. You, you know, your insurance broker you will always go with your insurance broker. If you've got a good insurance broker, it doesn't matter if he's on the top 5 or 6 companies and he says, okay, move your life cut to this because you're getting a better benefit. You're always going to go with that company. But let's say, for instance, you're going to go to a fast food chain and they give you bad food or bad chicken. Are you going to go back to that company? You're not. But because we in a people's business, we will start building up that relationship with people. And by doing that, we get referrals. As Gert said, he's in student accommodation. He's building up a network because people know Gert is good in his student accommodation. Wilna is good in coaching. So by building relationships and coaching and so on, so this year start building leads. You know, and at the end of the day is by building that relationship and creating communication, this is how you start building up a database that people buy from you. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. And I'm going to use a good example as my sister. My sister, when she was still alive, she was still selling cars at that at the age of 80. So she stays in Newcastle and the person wants a car, she will drive from Newcastle and deliver the car and take a plane back. And sometimes they might have a skadonk, and she might even drive that skadonk back to Newcastle. But she built up a database for at the end of the day that people follow her. So she was selling 25 to 30 cars just on referrals by building up a relationship with her client base. And real estate is exactly the same. One of the key things is what we have to look at as well is we need to prioritize your clients. Okay. And sometimes you have high-end clients, we've got middle income groups, we might have investors, we might have pensioners. It's all got, got to do is what type of client are we going to work with that month? And the key to this is how do we work with those clients? And we have to put and this is what I do is I understand what the client requires. And I'll also diarize for that client. And I'm just gonna use say I'm just using Gert as an example. I know Gert is in student accommodation. I know when the intake of the high intake is, and I might know there might be another property for Gert which can be converted into student accommodation. And I'll say, Gert, listen, I found this property. This is what your KPIs will be. This is what I believe you can do is we can put a business plan together and see if you can get this property because I know there's a shortfall in PE or Cape Town or Joburg for student accommodation. And through this, I build up that relationship with Gert because he knows I understand his business model. So if we understand each other's business model, we will build relationships going forward. Is there any questions you guys like to ask? Okay. So the other problem that we've got as agents, all what we're trying to do is selling for your own personal gain. So what happens in selling our own personal gain as well is we might earn a lot of money, but if you look in the future, we've got a bad name and everything gets lost. So that's why it says prioritize your clients going forward. The biggest problem is that we're doing is we're not making enough offers. because what we're basically doing is, and we'll get a mandate. And what we're trying to do is with this mandate, we're pushing that mandate because we've got 100% of the commission and we're trying to keep it for ourselves. And at the end of the day, we're losing that buyer and we're losing the seller because what we're trying to do is we're looking after our own pocket. The problem comes in is that we've got a high risk of selling it ourselves, but we've also got a higher risk of losing potential buyers. So I would rather work with Johan and say, Johan, listen, why don't we work together and see if we can sell this mandate? I might have two mandates, Johan might have two mandates, Gert might have one, Volna might have three. Now we've got maybe 10 mandates between us, and we can now create a wish list for our buyers and say, you, I see this is what you want. These are the three properties I feel that might work for you. Why did you choose one? And my my friend Johan, my partner Johan, will take you to it in Bloemfontein. I've got Wilna in Cape Town. I've got Gert in the Eastern Cape. And at the end of the day, we build up that relationship because we've used third-party tools that people can say, oh, wow, this is what I want. If Ron says Johan is a good guy, I'm going to listen to Johan. All of a sudden, the word and mouth communication goes forward, and that's how we can start leveraging each other's knowledge and share each other's deals, because all what we're doing is we're filling our pipeline, and at the end of the day, we grow our database. By having the mandate for ourselves, all what we're doing is we're getting fewer leads, we're getting fewer deals, and at the end of the day, you're going to turn around and say, real estate is not working for me. Any questions on this? The other problem comes in is a lot of us will be chasing new clients. This is one of the biggest problems that we've got. Think about it. All what we're trying to do is chase new clients. Now, Gert, yeah, or Johan, let me ask you this. How many clients are you working with at the moment? Buyers or sellers?
Well, yeah, if I had to put it, I think probably be about 4 or 5 just for that.
Okay. Gert, how many buyers or sellers are you working with?
Well, about 5 buyers and I'd say 3 sellers.
Okay. That's a question. How many buyers and sellers have you got on your cell phone? Yeah. So if
Well,
you
I've got 3,200 people on my cell phone. Yeah, so I mean that's where the source lies, eh?
correct. So now all what we're seeing is the 5 buyers and 5 sellers. But if we use WhatsApp, for instance, WhatsApp business, or not WhatsApp business, but we use WhatsApp status and tell him this is a new property I loaded. Gert has got nearly 3,000 people that might be interested in his property. All you need is one. But all what we're trying to do is run with those buyers because that's came through the portals, but we forgot with the database that we're sitting with at the moment. Or what about your Facebook page? Or what about your YouTube channel? What about your TikTok channel? If you bring all of that in and start promoting yourself by hunting for new clients, but promoting your business, you're going to start building up your cell phone contacts. So it might not be 3,000 anymore. In a year's time, it might be 6. Each one will be a potential buyer and a potential seller, because the average person will buy and sell 4 to 5 times in their lifetime. So maybe you can do a double deal. So what do I mean by this? Well, a newlywed gets married, they get a one-bedroom flat. That's what they can afford. Now they've got their first child. Okay, they're going to sell and they want a two-bedroom flat. And then they want a garden. And then so we carry on, and their kids wants to buy from you because you build up that relationship. And then you get to our age. Now we want to downsize. We don't want the 5-bedroom house anymore. All what we want is a lifestyle to sit on the beach and see the whales and have a lifestyle. So we're now downsizing of having maybe a 2-bedroom flat. But by building that relationship, your contacts will start following you, and that's how you can start creating that opportunity. Because the key here is nurture your clients to the best of your ability, be in touch with them. And this is where one of the key factors is how do you nurture your clients on a regular basis to make business work? Because when I've done a lot of presentations at STBB's offices in Bloberg, and the same question I asked the agents, and there were about 20 of them. The average says I'm running with three sellers and 5 buyers, but they forgot what they've got on their cell phone. Any questions on this, Johan or Gert?
No, I've got no questions on that. It's just the truth that you're talking, yeah.
Okay. Now, this is where the key comes in. How many times have you asked the client about their wish list? Is it your wish list or the client's wish list because you got one mandate and you're going to try and sell it because he's not listening? The clients are not listening because you're just trying to sell that property that you've got. And I'm going to use an example. I had a property in Bloberg, fully furnished, a small flat. I think it was 60 square meters for 2.7 million. The particular agent has got this buyer, and she's got a mandate of 3 or 4 properties and took them to Parklands East, Milnerton, but she was not listening to her client. And phoned me and says, Ron, have you got maybe a seaside property? I said, yeah, not a problem. She came through. I showed her the property. It was fully furnished. She's from overseas. Says, this is what I wanted. It says, so, but I was the last one. It says, yeah, my agent took me all over and she was not listening. I says, I nearly told her, listen, I'm not interested in working with you because she never understood what the wish list was at the end of the day. So if you understand the wish list and you start working with that buyer or that seller and finding out what their wish list is, this year you can start building up a relationship. Because sometimes if you're not going to create the wish list, it's like people feeling that you've been ignored. It's it's mismatched. You're not creating the right expectations for them, and it makes you not a professional. But if you start understanding what they want, this is when you start generating leverage. To give you an idea, or another story, just this week alone, 3 agents from different agencies that phoned me, knowing that I'm with EXP, but because of my knowledge on financial literacy and helping people to be removed out of debt review, they asked me, can my bond originator phone you and see if you can resolve the matter? So out of the 3, I saved 2 deals for them. And all of this is, I would like to work with you. And at the end of the day, because I said, I help them, and it says, I'm not there to take your clients. I'm saying, how can I network and grow with you? All of a sudden, I'll win them on my side. And this is how I can start working through the clients, what I've got for a wish list. I can help them to grow their business, but at the same time, I can gain it as well. Because the key to all of this is not selling, it's listening. So what's the difference? I listen to my wife, but I don't hear her. And that's what we've got with clients. because we can listen, but we don't hear what they're saying because we're interested in paying for my car. I need to pay for my bond. I need to get this debt collector off my back. We forget about, at the end of the day, how do we work with your buyers? How do we work with our sellers? Sometimes we'll go in just to get a mandate and say, don't worry, man. Old Pete, at the end of the day, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I think you get an extra 200,000 Rand more on your property. I would sell it for you tomorrow, knowing well that property is overpriced. And all you want to do is get that mandate, and then you're going to try to do price counseling. But in the meantime, he could have sold that property quite quickly because you never know what his problem was. He might have another property he had his eye on, or he might be in debt. It might be house might be on auction, but the agent was more interested in looking after their interest to get the mandate instead of building that relationship, putting a mandate back together, sit with them, show them the CMA report, show what that street's average house was sold, what the average house price of that street is, what sold in this area in the last 3 months. Do a synopsis and see what he can do to help him to create that conversation with the buyer or the seller. At the end of the day, it becomes a win-win situation. Vaughan and myself had an example, and I spoke about this example as well. It was in Edgemead. We went to go look at this property, and the property was overpriced by 300,000 Rand. I could have signed the mandate and I walked away, and I says, I'm not interested in selling this property because it's going to sit in my books. What I done is I put a marketing pack together. I went into Property 24. I done the statistics of the area, what sold. I then done a CMA report, I attached a CMA, and I gave him a mandate pack. And I said, this is what I think your property is worth. And I just left it with him. 2 weeks later, he phoned me and says, okay, I'm prepared to sign a mandate, and I think we need to list it according to what you said. So sometimes you have to walk away from the deal, but make sure your house is in order by dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And these are things that can work in your favor, because what do? At the end of the day, you want trust. You get people to work with you because you understand what their wish list is. The key to this is, the main solution to this is to be patient and to guide your clients through the processes if you want to be the top agent. It's all up to you how you want to do it. And this is where the key comes in. The biggest thing when it comes to clients, if I can ask the people on the Zoom, what is the biggest thing that you need from your client?
Probably trust.
Trust. Is to build that trust. And if you start building that trust, the more people will come to you, because now you understand by prioritizing their needs and putting their needs before your needs. And this is where it becomes more successful. And by putting that together, it helps you to grow your relationship with your client. Because what happens with trust is relationship. From relationship becomes referrals. From referrals, you're building up a network. So if you provide the right service, it's like you going to a restaurant and you sit down at the restaurant and you get bad service. Are you going to go back there? But if you're going to go to a restaurant, and even if it's more expensive than the others, but you get very good service, you're still going to go back there because you're enjoying yourself. Because you're going to tell everybody, yes, it was expensive, but at the end of the day, it's great fun. I was never rushed. Everything is on time. The food was great. There's no difference to us as real estate agents because we in the service industry, because we need to build a relationship with our clients. We need to build a relationship with the bond originators. We need to build a relationship with other agents because at the end of the day, your client comes first. So what I would like to close on this matter is to create more focus on the client, who's the buyer, the seller, and build that relationship that you can grow your network because your network is your net worth. And how do you grow your network with everybody? So here's a question, and I'm just working with Gert, saying Gert's got 3,000 people on his WhatsApp. Just figure out when is their birth dates, or what is the email address, or create a WhatsApp note and say, listen, the interest rate has just come down by 0.25%. This is what you can save now on your bond. How awesome would that be? Why don't you drop me a comment and tell me how much would you save on your bond by just a 0.25%? All of a sudden, you're creating a hook for people to come back into your profile by creating that conversation. In that, say to them, listen, give me your email address. By creating the email address, you can start running a blog. In that blog, you can tell them what's actually happening in their area. Migration, why it's good to come to Cape Town, or might have a place in Kruger and say, have you ever thought of maybe buying an investment property in Kruger or Plett? There's a nice 3-bedroom flat where you can create fractional title where it might be 10 million, but if you each put 2 million down as a fractional title, you can create a nice revenue stream by using that as an Airbnb. I'm just using all of these type of scenarios because people say, hang on, hey, I never thought of it this way, or Gert, I never thought of it this way. Can you tell me more? All of a sudden, you're picking up those investors. You're picking up that person that wants a second property or the bond origination. I mean, I just done that on my. I've also got about 3,000 or maybe a little bit more, and I just done a simple ad on my WhatsApp, and I picked up 3 bond originations. I mean, 0.4% on each bond origination is 12,000 Rand without me doing anything. All I've done is that I send the referrals. They might not buy from me, but at the end of the day, they build trust with me, and you can start generating an income. And this is how you can start building a relationship with your client base. Because at the end of the day, you need to be in charge of that client. Because people, at the end of the day, people don't really know what their wish list is. They got an idea. The husband will say, no, don't worry about the kitchen. How big is my garage? I need to put my V8 in there. And the wife says, no, 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 no. Come, I need a kitchen because I need to cook for our family of 6. And who wins? 90% it's a wife. But you have to find the compromise between both parties. So when you speak to them and say, okay, what are you prepared to compromise? These are the three places I've got. Each one has got a different feature. Out of the 3, which one did you like most? No, I like this one. Okay. It might not be a double garage, it might be a single garage. Which one would you compromise? No, I'll compromise with the 1 garage, but I love the kitchen. All of a sudden he says, okay, let me show you the 4th house. It might be what you're looking for. So instead of running around showing 10 properties, you now figured out what they want by starting with the 1st house, 2nd house, 3rd house, and asking just one question. What did you like most? What are you prepared to compromise? And through this will make your life easier to get the deal done. That's why a lot of agents don't know how to close. So on that note, any questions you'd like to ask going forward?
I'm fine, Ron. Thank you.
No questions from my side.